Thank you so much for joining. I'm excited to get started with our question and answer session today. I have some questions through email that have come in, and I'd really like to continue to introduce myself to you and how it is that I teach and help people on the path to peace. Because I know many of you found me through Eventbrite and signing up for one of my events. And then you might have noticed these emails coming in, these Wednesday Wisdom emails. But if you haven't had a chance to come to an event yet, I think I just wanted to show you who I am, talk a little bit about what I do, so that there's a face to these emails. So to start with, though, we will do a brief guided meditation. Oh, yeah, let's do our best to try to arrive right here, right now. It's not always the place that people want to be. So this will just be a gentle, getting settled meditation. If you want, your eyes can be open or closed. If you want to keep them open, try to just keep a soft gaze. You're not really looking at anything in particular. You're just letting your eyes start to rest. And notice how your body feels. Start bringing your attention to your body, maybe noticing how much of it you can feel. Is the outline pretty clear, or does attention want to cluster in just one place, or there's more sensation in one part of your body? And you can take a nice few slow, steady breaths. Feeling that sensation of breathing. And again, just feel as much of your body as you can. There isn't a right or wrong. You're just noticing if you really feel yourself in your body, feel the presence of your body. And you can also notice mental activity, the mind, thinking. And in particular, notice if it is feeling a little busy, it doesn't want to come into the present. That's okay. Normal at the start of a meditation. Just take a moment to notice if thoughts are coming into your mind. Maybe notice if there is a speed to them. Are they fast? Are they slow? Notice if there's a tone of voice. How do the thoughts sound? And now again, just gently return your attention to really feeling the sensations in your body. If there's a curiosity, you can be curious. If there's a feeling of settling, you can enjoy that. We'll come back together in just one moment here. So if you're still feeling a little restless, that's also okay. You can notice that. Go ahead and take another few slow, steady, satisfying breaths. And really notice what feels good about breathing. If there are any places of tension or friction. And no expectations, no need to know how, no need for an answer. Just ask yourself with your breathing, could this be easier? Is there a way this could feel better? And just let your body respond. All right. We'll come back together here. And in events like these, well, I'll share with you some advice I received when I lived in a monastery that served me well. There are times for very focused attention, detailed organizational, strategic, logical thinking and learning. And there's a lot that can be learned by just listening, by being that flower that opens to face the sun, listening to every single word, understanding complex concepts. At the end of the day, that's not necessary. So if you're feeling still a little bit settled or meditative, I encourage you to stay with that. Stay with feeling your body, stay with what is feeling good for you. And occasionally you might just hear some of my words that are just like that gentle rain coming to give that flower an afternoon pleasant shower. And so go ahead and just let yourself choose what kind of attention you want to have. If you want me and these words to just be in the background as you focus on your meditation, that's okay. And if you're ready to let go of the meditation and focus, welcome. So again, I'm Juniper, the creator of this Pause for Peace podcast that will be forthcoming, these Pause for Peace events, and this community that is continuing to form. And as I mentioned, I would like to get to some questions here, but I just want to start with sharing a little bit more about myself and how I teach so that you have context for these question and answer sessions and can feel comfortable sharing. Because I've noticed that when I go to workshops, sometimes I'm really engaged with the teacher and they ask if I have questions and I want to keep listening or engaging, but I don't have a specific question yet. And that's normal and natural. And also sometimes it just takes a while to get to know a teacher, to know what kind of question you feel comfortable or confident asking them. So I'll give a little bit brief background of myself. I have lived many lifetimes in this one lifetime. I'm not yet 40, so it will be a brief autobiography here. And then give you some examples of how I teach. So I'm someone who came upon this inner peace thing spontaneously. Some would call it an act of grace. But when I was pretty young, I was 13, I just knew that it's possible to live with inner peace as the North Compass, the foundation, really what's holding us all in the circle here together. And then, yeah, 25 years after that has been crashing into the realities of, well, what is reality, but what we often call consensual reality, the news on TV, the world as we see it today with the countries and political affiliations as they are. Wow, how does that world inner peace? Whew. So it has been a journey, and for better or for worse, I've really had to chart my own course. I did not grow up with a clear set of values, a clear set of traditions. I would say my family dabbled a little bit in Christianity, but they were very half-hearted about it. And then we stopped going to church. And actually, yeah, my family isn't so interested in this subject even. I'm the one who has had this spiritual curiosity, this spiritual calling. And without a container, a context that I grew up in, I have done what many people do. And our holy lady, the mother of the internet, um, books, different teachers and classes, searching all kinds of avenues. Where is peace? Who can help me with this? And I have good news and I have news. So we'll start with the good news. It's a little mind-boggling, but the way I see it, there are 9 billion people now, or we're getting close to 9 billion. That's 9 billion paths to peace. And that's not counting other sentient life forms, the ones most people in kind of dominant society would relate to, animals like pets. But yeah, I also see sentience in plants, mountains, rivers. It's almost like the entire earth is alive and we're all connected. It's weird. I don't even know why I would say that, but that's also part of the hard part. And where I'm meeting many students are, well, I use the term spiritual orphan, and I might change or update that, but I find that as I've been developing these Pause for Peace events and working on the podcast, there are plenty of people who are spiritually adrift right now. Maybe they did grow up in very clear religion and set of values that they no longer feel matches them, or they don't feel aligned with that. Or just right, kind of set loose into the wider world without any guidance. So there's power and potential with having this freedom to decide. And it can feel topsy-turvy, overwhelming, and like, please just tell me what to do. Just what thing do I pick? So that's really what my path has been a lot about, is learning how I learn and learning what actually serves me and will work for me, and what I can set aside and is not for me. So with this open-mindedness and the exploration I've done on different paths, and my realization that each path does hold wisdom, each path can take you to wisdom, I decided to call myself a freelance nun. And we're still in the process of defining what that means. That's going to be a lifelong process, but I'll just add another tidbit that one reason I call myself that is, far and away, my favorite times to be awake are between 3 and 5 in the morning. This morning I woke up at 5:30 and I was like, I missed it. I woke up so late. How could I wake up so late? I know that's not exactly typical. New parents are waking up maybe around that time, but most people, that doesn't really fit with their schedule. But because of my many years of meditation practice, I'm able to sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and do a meditation that is refreshing and restorative to me. I love those hours between 3 and 5. So that's part of the definition. And as I mentioned, I also was in a monastery for a while. And yes, very rigorous schedule. There was a silent retreat 1 week each month. We stayed in the same location, but just meditated as much as possible without speaking. Those were like ultra marathon events sometimes. But again, I keep coming back to peace doesn't have only one language. Peace does not only exist in one religion. And we can talk about my thoughts on how there came to be this idea that heaven is like over there, away after we die. I see how that came to be, but my reality is inner peace is right here, right now, always. It's not more than one blink away. So how do we feel it? What's going on? Why don't we feel it all the time? All right, well, I will pause here for a moment to see if any of the participants have a question. And if not, I'll go to an email question. But go ahead if you want to pop in the chat or come off of mute. Okay, looks like no questions at this time for the audience. But it's a good thing I came prepared with questions. So I'd like to talk a little bit about these emails I've been sending out the past few weeks and some questions that came up around that. So with wisdom coming in many paths, you might have guessed that horses are one part of my path to wisdom. And you do not have to like horses or be proficient with them or ride them. That is a lens, a mirror, because it's not about which particular hobby or passion or interest you have. It's the act of pursuing it that can teach you about peace. So in one of my emails a few weeks ago, I mentioned that I was talking about letting go. And I believe those emails were titled Flying Blind. And it's nice to be able to use mouth words here for a little bit to give more context to that, because I enjoy these emails, but sometimes I feel and I'm experiencing so much, it's hard to condense it into a text form. But my riding growing up, I can stay on a horse, but I feel like now I'm really learning to ride. And this can be a very fruitful metaphor for really how we treat ourselves on this path to peace. So although I'd been riding before, jumping, I can jump 3 feet, I can canter around a course and jump 3 feet. I had, unbeknownst to myself, developed a very defensive position. And I do have a saddle chair here. I'm not sure, I haven't tried to demonstrate this before, but let me try. Okay. I got the idea, let me see. I got the idea for this chair from my barber. Whoa, okay, unlike a horse, this goes 360, but with horseback riding, classical dressage, which is not what everybody does or how they ride, you want alignment between ear, shoulder, hip, and heel, so that if the horse falls from under you, you're standing on 2 feet. You're basically trying to stand on the horse. But I had basically developed this kind of position. This is a little over dramatic. I didn't ride quite like this, but you can kind of see that this does have some stability. But this is just a lot more like, whoop, I can even tip forward a little and be okay. I can go back. Whew. All right, I'll stop with the chair because it's not exactly accurate to how a horse is, but this has been a humbling past year for me, with basically starting over with horseback riding, which I thought I knew well enough to jump around a course. And I really have, when I say humbling, I mean, I really have been walking and trotting, which are the slower movements of a horse, in circles over and over and over again, and trying really hard. I basically feel like I'm a beginning meditator again, and just kind of back with like, is this working? Am I doing it right? Why is this taking so long? And one thing that has made that learning more challenging is the logical, organized, hyper detailed mindset has been trying to do everything and direct the riding. But the thing is, just like with inner peace, yeah, horses speak horse. They don't speak English. They don't speak any other human language with proficiency. They don't need language like that in order to be a horse or in order to teach us. For me to find an actually balanced position and to actually connect with the horse, I have to let go of that kind of thinking, which is hard because, well, going from, this kind of horseback riding to being just right here in my core, there's all kinds of technical little details. Like sometimes the instructor, tighten your pinky, and then that makes things better. So really every inch of me and every inch of the horse is up for evaluation and refinement and instruction. And there is a part of the learning process where it's helpful and important to really get those technical details. Right, what do I do with my pinkies? That could also be a question for a meditator. What do I do with my pinkies? But if I'm trying to keep all those details if I'm thinking about my pinkies while I'm riding, I'm not in the present moment. I'm one step behind the present, which, if it's just a regular riding lesson, I'm walking, the horse is pretty gentle, that's a safe situation, a safe learning environment. But horses really only live in the present moment, as do other animals. And particularly when you pick up speed, and if you're going to jump over objects, you do not want to be behind. You don't want to be ahead of the present moment, because I've injured myself that way, falling onto the horse's neck when I was leaning too far ahead. And this particular horse doesn't like that, so she didn't go over the jump. And I knew that about her, and that was her teaching for me. That was my error. I was too far ahead. But that, I want to just be not in the present moment. I need to be thinking about this. Why is my pinky? Yeah, I heard the instruction. I put my pinky back, but why was my pinky? Why do I always do? You see what I mean? We're getting back into the territory of our friend from the workshops and Juniper string theory. Tied up in thoughts, the ball of chaos. When we're lost in that and trying to figure life out that way, things move forward. Although I have been on horses that when I get in my head, they do stop. They're like, you left the partnership. I'm not doing this alone. So again, they really help keep me present here. So actually, let's just do a quick check-in. Kind of intersperse the lecture here with a meditation. Just again, notice how it is to come into your body. And just notice if there's a sense of being present or if there's a little negotiation. Thoughts want to go somewhere different. Maybe the body's like feeling restless. You don't have to change or force anything, just notice the inclination. Is it easy to be present, feeling yourself in your body? Or is there just a little bit of like, kind of want to get distracted? I don't know. All right, we'll come back. That was just an example of the brief kind of check-in that I often recommend my students infuse throughout their day. But I'm going to continue a little bit with the horses, and I also want to bring up an important point that I'm sharing examples of my path to peace, and I also in a recent email shared about these incredible athletes that I admire. But the path to peace does not require any particular kind of physical ability. I can share about Brother Lawrence here. Let me write a note here. I'm gonna get emotional here. He's one of my favorites, his story. So yeah, just keep that in mind that although I'm talking about the physical body and examples of being off balance, in balance, that's to help point us to attitudes, behaviors, patterns that happen on the inside. So again, you don't need to like horses and you don't need to be good at riding them. We'll get to some other examples here. But when I sent out that email a few weeks ago, again, I've been keeping things very simple with the horse, walking and trotting over and over again. It's amazing how difficult it is to make that not pretty just for the sake of looking pretty, but for both the rider and the horse to feel comfortable and confident in their body and to be moving in an effective, efficient way. It had been a while since I'd done a lunge line lesson, which is just where the instructor holds a rope attached to the horse's bridle and the circle is much shorter. And this is the safe way to practice things like letting go of the reins, closing your eyes. And I can mention that this horse is very, very sensitive, very attuned to a rider and has been trained very well. But all the same, I haven't closed my eyes on a horse before. I haven't really let go of the reins. But over and over again, in my own experience, when I've talked about with my instructor, I'm trying to ride from just right here. And even more specifically, just my solar plexus. If I just, if, if I'm present, centered, balanced, and just feel my solar plexus, everything about my riding gets so much better. The rest of my body falls into alignment. I'm more in touch with the horse. I arrive in the present moment. Crazy. But then again, my mind will be like, oh, what do I do about my pinky? Oh, my knee is facing in, but it should be out, or no, it was out, but I get discombobulated, all the different parts. So the closing my eyes was an exercise to help let go of that logical, everything's on a spreadsheet kind of thinking, and to move into this other kind of thinking, which lives in the body. And again, doesn't need a language. And sure enough, let go of the reins, close my eyes, horses trotting in a circle. Everything became light, easy. The horse was carrying itself better. I wasn't overworking. That's a pattern I have in life and with horses. Overriding, overdoing it, like trying to steer when that's not really necessary, actually. Yeah, no, it's scary. It's weird even talking about it now. It's not something we are encouraged to do usually, except for on like motivational posters or bumper stickers. But right, in that real world, no one's gonna close their eyes while driving. Do not do that, right? We can't apply this practice in other areas. But really, it's about, for me, it was about being in a place and with others that I felt safe enough to experiment with letting go. And it wasn't a whole hour, it wasn't 10 minutes. I probably had my eyes closed maximum 1 minute, but that was enough to really get that feeling in my body of, oh, this is how it is when I let go of the thinking mind and just move forward. I mean, basically, yeah, from my heart, just this center. That's actually possible. And this, it's kind of where inner peace lives too. So with this example, I'm sharing this to, again, open your mind to what all the possible avenues to peace, and really to help you start to think about where are places where you notice really intense, like logical, specific thinking, probably some overthinking. And is there any area in your life where you felt a sense of, I kind of just wanna, or couldn't it be great if, and just this instinct, this desire to feel, to be doing things a little differently. It can take some practice and some patience to become attuned to that desire, to even hear that the body's asking for you to be present in it, and to try to steer your way through life, not through head logic, but through body logic. So this can really be what you want it to be. There's no rush. That there's no push on the path to peace as I see it. Baby steps are appropriate. Like I said, this feat I'm talking about, closing my eyes for 1 minute, if it was even that, felt very safe with that horse, with my instructor in that environment. It was a tool to help me learn more about my body. It's not literally how I'm going to go through life. But even with all those, I knew I was very safe. I knew it would be okay. I just want to acknowledge again, it is a little scary and technically kind of confusing. What do I mean by that? Well, I've noticed this with horses and in other areas, but again, because the horse has so much physicality, it's a demonstration of what I'm talking about. Again, there's ways, plenty of people cannot fall off a horse. They can get on and not fall off. Is it riding or not? You know, that's going to be up for debate. But in order to be really connected and balanced within yourself, connected to the horse, and for the horse to be moving efficiently and carrying themselves, because some horses can get away with making the rider do a lot of work. It's a lesson horse. They know the rider is a bumbling beginner. So horses can move in ways that are very inefficient, that their body's kind of strung out. The rider's really having, or not having to, but trying to compensate with the reins. How to get it collected, light and easy? Well, it's the same question for us on the inside. Where are we rushing around trying to get done, 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 done? Oh my God, I'm sometimes in my life, I feel like I'm always 20 steps ahead, but at least 10 steps behind. So again, this present moment avoidance is chronic. But, well, let me just make it a little bit more explicit. All that rushing ahead and like, am I going to get this done? Why did I do that? Ah, fuck, 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 fuck. We're with our string friend again. How do we actually let go of this? Because if you try and follow the thoughts, that just leads to like, what about that email? Lunch? tonight, am I gonna vacation soon? There's no end to this. So again, how do we get into the body? Well, I just want to speak to this example in horseback riding, which is right as the rider's actually getting into balance and the horse is getting collected, which you notice when it's traveling at a bit more speed. So I'll say the trot, it does sort of slow down and start to feel weird before it feels light and smooth and easy. It's like you can feel the horse kind of gathering up. I'm like, oh, here's how you want me to go. It's light and easy. Okay. I myself have trouble with that hump. Just instinctively, I don't even know all why, but my body, I start to overcompensate. I start overthinking, like, oh, this isn't it. I need to add more gas. I need to add more gas. It's just an adjustment. It's just that getting into the body and living through here. Yeah, it does feel different. It takes like a second, like that one blink. Oof. And a lot of the people that I'm meeting, and we're talking about meditation and their interests, not horses, are actually facing a similar hump. They know this does not work. They are tired of feeling that inner turmoil and chaos and overthinking. But can I really let it go? I love my thoughts. That's who I am. They've been with me so long. Hmm. Letting it go and getting it in here. Ooh. Yeah, easier said than done. And I'll go back again to say, I had help. The horse, my instructor, and my many meditation teachers over the years. Also, right, books I've read, so teachers from many ages past. I have had help in getting the information, in helping to learn the skills. That has been invaluable. I've really needed that. But there does come a point where the individual does have to go through that. Oh my God, I actually have to let go of this. Holy shit, I've been doing everything and like it's been working and it's been good and I'm so happy about it. And I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna have to let go of this. Like you guys do. I know that, but I think I get to keep my tangled mess of overthinking, stressful, rushing around thoughts that actually aren't even helping me or doing anything except so I'd like you to think right now about an interest, a passion of yours. It's okay if you haven't done it for 20 years. Let me tell you, I've had breaks from horseback. I've had 10 years where I didn't ride at all. But what's an area that you feel it could be a hobby, an artistic practice, or a physical discipline? Maybe you do yoga, you run. Just connect with one of your passions. Notice if your body is lighting up or if your mind is getting active. And if you can, we're just going to do a little meditation on the fly here. Try to really picture yourself doing this hobby just for a moment, kind of create a little scene in your mind. It doesn't have to be crystal clear, it can be very blurry in the actual image, but just kind of picture yourself in a scene with this hobby. And notice how you're relating to it. Again, are there thoughts? Is there a feeling of curiosity or relaxation in your body? And this might be a little unclear, and that's okay. Just notice how open or closed you feel on the inside. You don't have to know exactly what that feels like or looks like, but just check. Maybe it would show up in a thought or a feeling in your body, but how open or closed do you feel as you're picturing this hobby? And now just for fun, just to get a comparison here, maybe you could think of a traffic jam or being stuck on a commute. Notice how your body responds, your mind. And hopefully this isn't too asking too much, too stressful. But if you like, you could even picture yourself in a traffic jam. Everybody's safe. It's just the cars are not moving. You've been sitting in traffic for half an hour, maybe more, not moving. You're late. What's going on? Feel your body. Notice your thinking. And also, how open or closed do you feel? Now take a nice few slow, steady breaths. And again, go back to picturing your hobby, your artistic or athletic discipline or sport. Something that you like, in other words. Bring some activity to mind that you like. And just notice if there's a comparison, a contrast in your body. We'll come back together in a moment here. Another nice, slow, steady breath. And if you'd like, you could just kind of reconnect with your space, maybe gently blink or look around. Notice how your body and mind respond to that. So in this exploration, you may have noticed different notes. This whole time I've been talking about myself as a freelance nun, neglecting my actor training, director training. But in the acting training I've received, we talk about being able to play different notes. So not necessarily a musical note, but being able to have that full range of emotions and possibilities. So an exploration like that we did with the different visualizations is to just help us get a feel for these notes. What did happen in my response? Oh, okay, that's interesting. And it's by doing something like that that we can get a temperature check on do I really enjoy this activity that I'm bringing to mind, or when I'm actually doing it, or did something else happen? And I like to bring up the traffic jam, the safe traffic jam, because it's a situation that usually people find stressful. I don't like it. I've said many times I could never live in LA. There's just too much traffic for me. Um, the way that I let go when I was riding that horse in that completely safe, and many would say artificial environment, that practice and that body memory that I gained is applicable in the traffic jam, especially because I'm just sitting there, right? Stuff is not happening, but the stress is going up. So that's really where this inner peace thing comes in. Yes, I'm very encouraging and outright prescribe people to do things they're interested in. That's where a lot of the gold is going to be with learning, and where you're going to feel okay and safe and just try things like letting go of the reins. But then there's real world application, and what you were playing around with here, well, kind of just like an actor in rehearsal as well. You play a lot, you do things that will not end up in the film or on the stage. It's about understanding the range and the possibilities, using the tools and practices when they're needed in stressful situations. So again, my example is with horses. You might like putting together jigsaw puzzles, or cooking, or playing with grandkids, sewing, mowing the lawn. Yeah, cooking's a good one. Hopefully there's time to come back to Brother Lawrence here. That's the start. That's what keeps the path interesting and pleasant, staying engaged with your passions. It could also be meditation or a spiritual practice. But that hump, that hump I was talking about, that moment right before things actually start to go really well with horseback riding, it feels weird. And I'm like, I think it's wrong. I don't like this. What's happening? I actually do need my instructor to say, you're fine. This is just getting into it. That's what it feels like to get into it. It being the present moment, feeling balanced in the body, and able to balance. Because again, we're not going to get rid of thinking. I did put this away. We can learn to live without this and still use logical, rational thinking. That is still needed and good to employ in certain situations. What I see is that this can get on steroids and dominate a lifetime, a civilization, decades, centuries. Again, if you're trying to get out of it by staying in it, it doesn't work. You have to move into what's different and trying what's different, which I call living through the body. Other teachers may call it something different. It is illogical and it is scary. But what I want to offer is encouragement for you to explore and practice letting go, being in your body in safe situations, which is part of what I'm creating with this online community, is a safe space for us to share our challenges for peace and to encourage each other. Or, right, sometimes it isn't just that hump. A lot of shit is going on and we're trying everything, including letting go, and look where I still am. Well, even better to have some community there. So we're getting close to time here. There's, so I'm looking, because I received a few questions about the fear of letting go, and it's illogical to let go of the reins of a horse. There was another question about feeling an openness to inner peace. and really wanting to go there. But then what if it goes away? And I'm going to circle this one and get to it in the session this evening, that fear of it going away. I'd actually like to finish with Brother Lawrence, because in spite of what I've said, that peace doesn't require any kind of body type or physicality, it could be easy to not hear that or to get turned around with all my horse talk. But no, Brother Lawrence, I need to, research a bit more to get those factual details of the exact years. But he's someone who, even though I don't know hardly anything about him, has been very inspirational for me. And I'd like to end with his story, actually, the little that I know of it. We're going to travel to 17th century France. And maybe you've seen a production of Cyrano, the play, or there are movies that come out. Swords, still a little bit of that chivalry culture, antagonism between monarchy and nobles, lots of impoverished people who don't have many options in life. There was a man who became known as Brother Lawrence. I don't know exactly what had happened, if it was came in birth or through an accident, but he lacked a lot of physicality. He could not become a soldier, and he couldn't really farm. And this was a time when life was very, 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 very much more physical than it is today for a lot of us. So he didn't quite know what to do. And my opinion, to be frank, I think he was in a vulnerable position, that those weren't times where there was like social support networks of any sort, except there kind of were. He one day was walking in the fall or winter, and it had been stormy, bad weather, all the trees had lost their leaves. So he saw a barren tree, and yet it wasn't that. He had this realization that this tree is full of life. I can see it with all the flowers and blossoms. This tree is not dead, and neither am I. So he realized he would be in a monastery. He went to a Carmelite monastery, I believe. I'm just writing down research details. And oh, I didn't mention he was also illiterate. So he hadn't come from a noble class. He'd come from more of an agricultural family. So he wasn't going to be on track to be a priest. He ended up working in the kitchen. And over the years, over the decades, people in that monastery and people outside of it started to notice that there's someone in our community who is just glowing, abundant, clear, present, full of life and love, and just a very, and I think in that society, in that time, very God connected, very connected with God life. It was something that came to be known within that monastery and outside of it. And he was widely considered the most, well, I don't quite know the word, not necessarily skilled, but the most spiritual, the most spiritually advanced person there. So he was not the priest, he was not a confessor, he was not a bishop, he did not rise in hierarchy, but he was the most respected and skilled in spiritual matters, even though he was in a society that at first would have rejected parts of him or thought that he couldn't do things. And right, he wasn't on a path to gain in hierarchy. Although I will say, having spent time in a monastery, that I think it's true in many monasteries, whoever runs the kitchen does need to be the most mature person. That is a very demanding, challenging job. I did it for 2 months, and all of people's insecurities can get projected onto food stuff and the food situation and desires for control and disagreement, and it's a lot. This isn't just a business type situation of like, oh, just put all the pies in the oven and then we're fine to go. There's a lot of emotions, there can be a lot of tensions. It's not so simple to just be a cook in a monastery. But that's really the story I have of Brother Lawrence. You can see it was somewhat scanty, but I've heard it a few times now, and each time it's a reminder. Peace is present now. There are reminders for us everywhere. Doing what we love, really focusing on the doing of that, can bring us to peace, whatever it is that we're focused on. And yes, it can happen in situations where we're in a difficult situation, where we have to focus on something we don't want to do. That's a way to train, or it can help prepare a meditator to be in situations like that. But you don't have to be perfect in mind, body, or soul. You don't have to have a certain kind of physicality. You don't have to have a certain kind of language or hierarchy. Peace is here for all of us. And that's what I'd really like to continue sharing with you, and hearing your stories, your questions. And gradually, little by little, we will be creating this circle of peace where many of us are following different interests, having different discoveries about peace and the mind and what this meditation thing is, and allowing for that difference. Because again, like I said, this isn't, yes, I have an online community and I welcome people into it. I provide guidance. I have classes, structures that I can give, meditation or styles and techniques of meditation I can teach. And my dream for that, though, is that within that, again, everybody's doing something slightly different. There might be someone who is Christian or Muslim or a neuroscientist or a pagan. I can see us still gathering together around this call for peace. And as long as we all want to feel peace and live in peace, I think we can create this circle where we all belong, we all can talk to each other respectfully, and allow each other to follow our different, unique paths to peace. So with that, I'll conclude this first information. It turned out to be more of an information session, I guess, but thank you so much for joining me. I mentioned there was one question I didn't speak to directly, and the other questions maybe was a little bit more poetic or storytelling, and you might want to listen again. That can be helpful. But there will also be more of these, and again, really looking at these different kinds of, oh, yes, thank you so much for showing up. I had a regular here. Yeah, that balance, right, of the clear, logical, detailed, nitty-gritty thinking, and then being in a body. Bodies don't think that way, but like, I want to take a nap now, I'm thirsty, I need to move. So I'm going to go do all that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you maybe later tonight or at another Q&A session. These are just going to keep going so that we can continue spending time together, learning from each other. And I'm happy to facilitate all that. So thank you so much for joining this little pause for peace. And I will see you next time. Thanks so much.